he's really upset because he wants this and you're saying no, and I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. Hi everyone, my name is Zoe Paris and today's video is in collaboration with OUT Paris. They are a very fun YouTube channel that talks about all things au pair in Paris and how to navigate that experience. So please go over to their channel, subscribe, like their content. I will have their information on the screen as well as linked in the description box below. Now, let's get started with my own advice on navigating the experience of being an au pair in Paris. Now, my topic today is talking about communicating with the kids if they don't speak a word of English. This was my issue with 2 of the 3 children I looked after. The oldest spoke a bit of English because he was 12 and took more English classes. The younger 2 children were 10 and 4. They didn't have as much exposure, and so learning to communicate with them was definitely challenging. So I'm going to share with you 4 tips that really helped me during my time as an au pair to make sure I was communicating the best I could with these 2 kids who didn't understand me, I didn't understand them. So these definitely helped make things a little bit easier on a day-to-day basis. Now, tip number 1 is gestures. I think in any language, if you are trying to communicate with someone who doesn't speak your language, using gestures can be very helpful. Now, be mindful what certain gestures mean in different countries, because gestures that may mean one thing in your country may mean something very different in another country or culture, so just be aware of that. So for me, with the 4-year-old especially, because his French was a little bit hard to understand because he was so little and he didn't speak French as well as, of course, his older brother or his parents, obviously. And so sometimes it was very, very difficult to understand what he needed or wanted, or getting him to do certain things like get dressed, brush your teeth, eat your food, don't hit your brother, those sort of things. So doing gestures like pointing to them and saying, you need to brush your teeth, and making very simple gestures like that will get the child to understand more or less what you mean. Now, certain commands are easier than others, like telling them to get dressed and putting the motions of getting their clothes and putting it up to them and saying, you need to get dressed, and handing them the clothes and stuff like that, or leading them to the bathroom and pointing at the bath saying, you need to take a bath. They will understand that better than you just staring at them speaking English and them having no idea what you're saying. Now, for more complicated demands or requests, I think it's better that you learn those phrases ahead of time, either with translation apps like Longuet or Google Translate, which I will touch on in a little bit, or asking your French teacher as well, because at least for my au pair program, we were required to take, I think, 6 to 9 hours of French per week at an accredited language school. And so a lot of au pairs in my class, because it was a class specifically for au pairs, would come up to the teacher after class or before and say, hey, I'm having trouble communicating this thing to the child or children I'm looking after. How do I say this, or how do I ask them to do this and that? And she was very helpful and would write out the phrases for us, so that is an excellent resource as well. And also asking the parents too, if they speak English well enough, to ask them, what can I say to get the child or children to do these things, because it's really hard for me to communicate with them. That's also very helpful as well. So definitely take advantage of the gestures when and where you can. My second tip is to communicate in English first, then French, so they can start learning simple phrases, commands, and questions. So saying like, get dressed, brush your teeth, eat your food, and then saying those commands in French directly after. And so they start understanding that phrase the more and more you say it. So eventually you'll only have to say the English and then they will understand, and they'll either throw a fit because they have to get dressed or brush their teeth, or they'll go do it if you're lucky. That was really helpful for me in doing simpler stuff, or how was your day? How was school? How were you? And just little things like that, they'll start to get it. And eventually, the more they hear that English, you can move on to more, advanced English, like, what's your favorite art project that you did at school? Or what do you think about this book? Do you really like this character, but stuff like that, then they'll start to understand it slowly. But I think definitely English first, French second will help them get used to hearing English from you and understanding what you're asking them to do. Now, if you're having a really hard time communicating and the parents aren't around or no one's around to help kind of translate or help you figure out what the child or children are saying or what you're trying to communicate, drawing pictures is very helpful. Either have a pencil and paper with you, or maybe a fun little whiteboard and some markers, and drawing out what you're trying to say. Like if you're trying to say, we can't play X game right now, we need to do this, and maybe drawing a picture or gesturing as well, drawing a little picture of the ball they're trying to play with, X the ball, and you say, no, we need to go, and then you draw where you're going. Maybe it's the park, maybe they really need to get outside, or maybe it's time to go eat or something like that. Pictures, I think, are very underused and can really help, especially with the younger children, and getting them to understand things that maybe are a bit more complicated for you to translate and for you to understand what they are saying as well. So give drawing pictures a chance. Now, my final tip is good old Google Translate. Now, I have to say this works much better with older kids who know how to read and write, maybe not so much the younger ones like 6 and under or even 7 and under, because with the 4-year-old I looked after, he could not read or write, so I couldn't ask him to type in what he was saying into my phone so I could understand, like, oh, he's really upset about this and wants to do this instead, and this is how I need to approach the situation. But with the older kids who were 10 and 12 that I looked after, it was very easy to be like, okay, I don't understand you, just put it here so I can understand what you're trying to tell me. But this is when, with the younger kids, the aforementioned advice will be much more helpful, like doing pictures, gestures, that sort of thing is going to be much more helpful. And of course, take advantage of if the other siblings are around and have a little bit more English understanding and can translate what their younger sibling is saying to you, because that's what the oldest kid would do with me and say, oh, he's really upset because he wants this, and you're saying no, and I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say, and this is really stressful. So it's very easy to have a freak out and break down, but you just need to take a breath, remind yourself that you are learning French, they are learning English, and that there's going to be some frustrations, but hopefully this advice will help you just a little bit when those moments arise that you're like, oh my god, this is so difficult, I have no idea what these kids are saying, they have no idea what I'm saying,
I just need some help.
So definitely try these out and see which work really well for you and which don't. But if you do watch after older kids, Google Translate is almost always the best route to go. That is it from me today for the video collaboration with OUT Paris. Please make sure to go and subscribe to their channel and like their videos, check out their content. It's really helpful, really interesting if you are thinking about becoming an au pair in France and the Paris area especially. It's a really great opportunity. It can be stressful at times because, of course, with any job there's going to be challenges, and when you're looking after kids who don't speak your language, there can be a lot of challenges that come up. So I hope this video is helpful to you if you are either currently an au pair or thinking about becoming an au pair, to kind of have these tools at the ready for when those difficult communication issues come up during your day-to-day au pairing journey. Thank you so much for watching today's video, you guys. Bye!